there's labor and there's capital. And chemical engineers, we are high-paid laborers. Okay, I made more money than my dad made in the peak of his career. I made $33,500 graduating from college. I didn't think you could make any more money than that until I got a raise. I'm like making 36. I was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. And then I found out these guys on Wall Street are making $1 million. I'm like, and I look at their pictures. They didn't look any smarter than me, all right? Darn sure weren't any better looking, right? So I said, well, a couple of them, but that's all it comes. But what I realized was that there was a whole world that had placed a different value on a different set of skills that I didn't have. Now, I had just implemented a solution at one of the plants, Goodyear and Tire and Rubber, and it had increased the productivity of this one line by 26%. So that's a whole shift, a massive value, but I didn't get paid $1 million, right? So while that was valuable to the corporation, it clearly did not inure to the benefit of the labor who did that work, right? And so I said, let me go retool. So I look at different business schools, I got into JD MBA program at Columbia, decided just to do the MBA. And while I am there, I then go, I do very well, first year, top student, so I had to come back for the summer graduation in my first and second year to get this award, the summer graduation. And lo and behold, there is one of these guys on that magazine cover who was the keynote speaker at that graduation. Okay, a guy by the name of John Utendahl is a good friend of mine, he's a brother of mine now. He's like 6'11" and just tall and beautiful, and I'm like, man. He's like, at the end of the graduation, he says, man, you got an interesting background. Have you ever thought about a career in investment banking? I was like, well, there's a bunch of investment bankers in my business school class, and I don't like any of them. And he says, well, why not? I said, well, they think they know everything, and you got to understand, I'm an engineer. We do know everything. It bothers us. And I said, in all honesty, I still don't really understand what you all do. And John's like, why don't you come down to my office? We're in New York, I was at Columbia Business School, and have lunch. And we sat down, and it ended up being a 2-hour lunch. And in that time, I got to understand a bit more about him, his career, how he got there. And then at the end of that, he called 7 people. One of them, a guy by the name of Stan O'Neill, who happened to be then the CFO of Merrill Lynch, a guy by the name of Ray McGuire, who's one of the leaders in mergers and acquisitions. Anyway, a whole list of these. And these were the people on that magazine. They were his friends, right? And so I started then understanding the power of networks in that context. Okay, as an engineer, you go, you solve problems, and that's what you do. But then I started to see how this whole Wall Street thing worked. And from that, figured out that the only business that I really liked in investment banking was mergers and acquisitions. And it was because, if you think about it, it's a board level type discussion, it's a CEO level discussion. It's how, with the exception of warfare, and divorce, it's how assets get transferred across this planet, right? In single transactions, in essence. And I thought that was fascinating. And I said, I need to now go become an expert in mergers and acquisitions. And I ended up with jobs from a bunch of different places, but figured out that Goldman Sachs was the best place to learn that trade because it is an apprenticeship job. So it is one that you're only going to learn from other people. And when I looked at the different firms at the time, there'd be one M&A guy, and it was usually a white guy who was surrounded by 8 or 10 other people, junior people, and you were not going to get, how are you going to break into that? Whereas Goldman at the time was the only one that actually had this whole teamwork process, where you would work for 2, 3, or 5 different partners on different deals. And so as a result of that, you could actually get trained. So I knew it was important to get trained and to work on as many deals as I could, as opposed to hope, to get the favor, curry the favor of the one M&A guy in the center of this, whatever that little concentric circle was. And so that's why I ended up going to Goldman Sachs and focusing on mergers and acquisitions.